Most people think inflation simply means prices are going up, that bread becomes more expensive, rent rises every year, or fuel costs more than it used to. But this explanation, although familiar and easy to repeat, hides the deeper truth. Inflation is not just about rising prices. Inflation is about the falling value of money itself. When you see prices rising, the real story is that the currency in your pocket is slowly losing its power to buy the same things it bought yesterday. A loaf of bread didn't suddenly become more valuable. Your money became weaker. This is the part most people never think about, because society teaches us to look at the symptom, not the cause. We feel inflation as a pressure, a constant tightening. The quiet realization that your salary doesn't stretch as far as it used to, even if the numbers on your paycheck go up. Maybe you work more hours, earn slightly more, and yet every month feels heavier than the one before. You start asking yourself, why am I doing everything right, but still falling behind? Inflation creates this invisible imbalance. It pushes ordinary people onto a treadmill that never stops. A treadmill where the speed increases so slowly that many people don't even notice. They simply feel tired without understanding why. And here is the strangest part. Even people who do everything correctly, those who save money, avoid unnecessary spending, follow financial advice, still find themselves losing ground over time. Their savings shrink in purchasing power, their efforts buy less, their financial goals drift farther away. Inflation punishes caution and rewards borrowing. The system silently encourages behaviors that benefit the institutions that created the problem in the first place. If you ask most people to explain inflation, they will talk about prices. They will blame stores. They will blame companies. Some will blame global events. But very few will ever question the one thing they should. What is happening to the money itself? Inflation is not an accident. It is not a temporary inconvenience. It is a structural part of the world we live in. And to understand how it works and why it makes you poorer, we must go deeper. Inflation begins long before prices change. It begins the moment new money enters the system. Most people imagine money printing as physical cash being produced in a factory, enormous machines stamping bills and sending them into circulation. But modern money creation doesn't look like that at all. It happens quietly, invisibly, through digital entries, loans, and government decisions. Every time a bank issues a loan, new money is created. Not transferred, created. Every time a government issues debt, the money supply expands. And every time central banks adjust their policies, the value of money shifts, subtly but powerfully. The more money exists, the less each individual unit is worth. This is a simple law of supply. When something becomes more abundant, its value falls. Money is no different. But here's the part that turns inflation from an economic concept into a structural necessity. Modern economies require money to lose value over time. If money kept its full value forever, people would save more. If people saved more, they would borrow less. If borrowing decreased, banks would create less money. If banks created less money, economic growth would slow. Governments would collect less tax revenue, corporations would see lower profits, and the entire financial system would begin to contract. To prevent this contraction, the system encourages spending, borrowing, and continuous expansion. Inflation becomes the engine that keeps everything moving forward, not because it benefits ordinary people, but because it sustains the architecture of debt and growth on which modern economies depend. A world without inflation sounds peaceful, stable, predictable. But such a world would collapse under the weight of its own promises. Governments depend on inflation to reduce the real burden of their enormous debts. Banks depend on inflation to maintain demand for credit. Corporations depend on inflation to justify expanding prices and profits. Inflation is not a failure of the system. It is the system. And yet, the consequences fall not on the institutions that create it, but on the people who participate in it, trying their best to keep up with a game that was designed to outpace them. Prices don't rise because life becomes more valuable. Prices rise because money becomes less meaningful. And to understand what that truly means for your future, we must now examine the impact inflation has on your daily life. A silent erosion that affects your savings, your income, your hopes, and your sense of stability. Inflation does not strike like a storm. It does not arrive suddenly, loudly, or dramatically. It works like slow erosion, a quiet wearing away of your purchasing power, your stability, and your sense of progress. At first, you don't even notice it. The prices rise just a little, a few extra cents here, a small increase there. A cup of coffee costs slightly more than last year. Your rent quietly climbs. Groceries that once felt affordable now feel heavier in the basket. But the change is so gradual that you accept it as normal. And this acceptance is exactly what allows inflation to deepen its grip. Because here's the truth. Inflation doesn't just make things more expensive. It shrinks the value of your effort. When your salary rises by 5%, but prices rise by 10%, you did not get a raise. You got a pay cut disguised as progress. Your employer may tell you they increased your wage. The government may assure you that the economy is growing. But what matters is not the number on your paycheck. It's what that number allows you to buy. A raise that does not beat inflation is not a raise. It is a loss. Inflation is often called a hidden tax, but that phrase doesn't fully capture its impact. A tax is something you pay consciously, something you see, something you can calculate. Inflation is different. It takes value without your permission, without a signature, without a moment where you agree to it. It silently reduces the worth of your savings, your future, your time. If you leave $1,000 in a bank account and inflation is high, that money will buy less every year, even if the balance stays exactly the same. Your account number appears stable, but its power is draining. This is why inflation hits the middle class the hardest. People with little money have nothing to lose. Their reality does not change much. People with extreme wealth own assets that grow faster than inflation. But the middle class? They hold savings, earn fixed salaries, and rely on stability. Inflation punishes all three. It makes saving feel pointless. It pushes people to take risks just to preserve what they already have. It forces families into cycles of debt, not because they are irresponsible, but because the system quietly moves the goalposts every year. Even when you work harder, even when you earn more, even when you make what looks like good financial decisions, inflation ensures that progress feels slower, goals feel farther, and stability feels more fragile. This is how inflation makes you poorer. Not suddenly, not violently, but inevitably.
Here is the part most people never hear. Inflation is not a failure of the economic system. It is a feature of it. Governments benefit from inflation. Banks benefit from inflation. Corporations benefit from inflation. Not because prices rise, but because inflation reduces the true burden of debt. When a government owes billions or trillions, inflation quietly reduces the real value of that debt. The money they borrowed yesterday is paid back tomorrow with currency that is worth less. It is one of the oldest tricks in economic history, but it is never taught clearly. Inflation makes debt cheaper for those who owe a lot and more expensive for those who owe a little. It punishes savers and rewards borrowers. It weakens wages and strengthens asset holders. It moves wealth upward while convincing the public that everything is simply getting more expensive. If inflation is so damaging for ordinary people, why don't governments try to eliminate it? The answer is uncomfortable. The modern financial system collapses without inflation. Debt relies on inflation. Stock markets rely on inflation. Banks rely on inflation. Even businesses rely on inflation to justify raising prices and paying back loans with weaker money. Inflation is the quiet engine that powers a machine far larger than any individual person. And even when inflation becomes destructive, even when people struggle, the system does not truly change. Because the system was never built for the average person. It was built for institutions. But here is the part that matters most. Inflation does not have to control your understanding of the world. Knowing how and why it happens shifts your perspective. It allows you to make decisions based on awareness, not fear. It reveals the real rules of the financial game, not the simplified version most people are taught. Because once you understand that money constantly loses value, you begin to understand why the world moves the way it does. Your savings behavior changes. Your investments change. Your expectations change. And slowly, your relationship with money changes. Awareness doesn't eliminate inflation, but it protects you from being blindsided by it. As this episode ends, a larger question emerges. If inflation constantly erodes value, and if money is created endlessly, why do prices rise even in economies that are not growing? What drives cost increases when productivity is stagnant? This leads us into the next chapter of the financial system, a chapter most people experience but very few understand, and that will be the focus of our next video.